Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm working on a very special card, so get comfy and let's get crafty. Today I will be using the Honeybee Stamps Lovely Layers die set, or Lovely Layers Foliage die set rather. Also I have a Momenta Numbers die set. I purchased this at Hobby Lobby. I have some gold foil paper from Joann's and a white card base with some gold twine and a white card panel. The first step in my card today is to take my card panel, and it has been trimmed down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And zooming in here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing, I'm taking a ball stylus and I'm using the stylus to score a line in my card panel, starting at the 3/4 inch mark all the way over to 1 1/4 inches, I believe, 4 score lines to create just a little bit of texture and interest on this card panel. This is a mostly white card. I have a little bit of gold touches because it is a 50th anniversary card for my parents, and 50 is the golden anniversary. I am using a stylus instead of a bone folder because it is less likely to go through the paper with a little bit of pressure. This is more pressure than I would use to score the card because I really want it to be noticeable. And here I'm going to show you a still shot of how that scoring looks from the now front side of the card. All right, once we have that put together, or that part done, we're going to go ahead and score our card base. Using my stylus again, because it's in my hand, I'm scoring this at 5 1/2. So it will be a top folding US A2 size card that is 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. And I'm just burnishing that fold with a bone folder. The next thing I need to do is add this gold foil paper. Now, most of the time I would cut out the middle of that so I could use it again, but I didn't today. I mean, it's my parents, right? I can't skimp on my parents. Just kidding. I just didn't want to. I mean, I can't skimp on my parents, but I really just didn't want to cut out the middle. I wasn't sure how I was putting the white card panel down, so I didn't want it to be too uneven. So I'm going to go ahead and layer this gold paper on with some double-sided adhesive using my ATG runner. And then I'm going to put my white panel down. But first, I'm going to add some twine. Now, this is foil embroidery floss, and it's 6 strands together, and they come apart very easily, but I don't want to take it apart this time. So I am going to use my Scotch tape, and I'm just going to tape the end of the twine to one side on the back of this card panel. And then I'm going to wrap that twine around my card panel 3 times, way off camera because, you know, well, I just did. I'm going to go ahead and tape that twine down and then cut the twine off the roll. I am going to add another piece of Scotch tape to the bottom end of that twine just to keep it from moving around. Then I'm going to flip it over, make sure the twine is how I like it, and then I'll add more tape to the back to hold it in place. And this is just a little cheater method for using twine. Often I use double-sided adhesive, but this twine tends to unravel easily, and I thought tape would be the best effort, or the best method. The next thing I'm going to do is add double-sided foam tape, dimensional foam tape, to the back of this panel. I could not really use a flat adhesive because the twine would make it bumpy, but it won't affect the 3M foam tape very much. I'm going to add this to the front of my card. Now I'm trying to center this, and if you've ever watched my videos before, you know I am a visual centerer. I don't measure, I look, and if it looks good, I leave it. And you can see that the texture that was created by the stylus right there. So the next thing I need to do is figure out how I'm going to use my foliage. Now I cut all of those foliage dies out with white cardstock and vellum. And I couldn't figure out how I wanted to use them. In the end, I still think I used too many because those score lines are really hard to see. I think probably I should have cut the foliage down and used smaller pieces. But now that I have my arrangement decided, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. So this is a Mint Owl sentiment stamp set. I've had it forever. It has a sentiment for just about everything. And using my Misty stamp positioner, I am going to stamp Happy Anniversary onto this piece of white cardstock. I am going to be heat embossing it. So I will prepare my cardstock with the Rabbit Hole Designs anti-static powder tool. And then I will stamp this sentiment up in Versamark ink. It's a sticky ink that will hold on to that embossing powder until I can get it heat set. Being very gentle with the amount of pressure that I'm adding to my Misty lid so I don't squish out the shapes of those letters. I have some Brutus Monroe gilded gold embossing powder. It's a fine embossing powder, so it does really well with sentiments. And I put it on and shook it off a little too fast, so I add a little bit more, let it sit there for a minute. And now I'm going to heat set that. I am starting at the back because this is a thinner cardstock, and that will kind of help prevent the powder from blowing off, but also it will prevent a little bit of warping from the way I'm holding the paper because, you know, it's a skinny piece of paper and it's going to go wherever it is sent. Once I have that heat set and it has cooled off, I'm going to go ahead and trim that down in my trimmer. And I'm just going to make it as skinny and tiny as I can. I'm trimming right up close to the top of the letters. This is a little mini guillotine trimmer that I got. It's kind of like the We Are Memory Keepers one, but this is a store-branded one. So now I'm back on the front of my card and my foliage had gotten knocked around a little bit, and I'm adding that sentiment there, and I'm realizing this is too big because I have also cut out a 5 and a 0 from that gold foil paper, and there's nowhere to put it. Like, that Happy Anniversary was too big of a sentiment strip. And I really want the 50 on there. I think that is a huge milestone, and I really wanted that to be prevalent on the card. So instead of using the Happy Anniversary, I contemplated sticking just some white cardstock behind there. And I'm leaving all of this in because I want you to know, if you're watching this, that indecision is part of the game. That's just how things work. Sometimes our best laid plans do not go the way we planned them. So the next thing I'm going to do is just add my foliage. And I decided to put little tiny pieces of 3M foam tape on the back of all of those leaves. Yes, I did, because I am just kind of extra special crazy, but also it's for my parents, so it needs to be special, right? I didn't make you watch all that because, well, let's face it, nobody wants to watch me cut 943,226 pieces of foam tape. Or, you know, the half a dozen or so that I cut for each branch. Probably if I did this again, I would not put foam tape on the second and third foliage branch unless the leaf needed some support. So I did not pre-plan that part. So I did go ahead and put foam tape on the back of all of them. It does make it a little bit thick, but I didn't mail this card. I hand delivered it when we went to my parents', well, we went out to my parents' home state. They live in Idaho, and had an anniversary party for them, which was really fun. Most of my siblings were there. I had one sister who couldn't come because her oldest son just got married and they're traveling a ton, but the rest of my siblings were all there, and it was wonderful. And a lot of my mom's siblings were able to come, and some of my dad's siblings were able to come, and my 93-year-old grandmother. It was wonderful. It was awesome. So now that I have my foliage, the top one I did glue down. So now that I have my foliage on there, it's time to add that 50 on there. And I'm still debating. I want to get that anniversary on there too, but most important is that 50. I am just 100% glued on having that 50 on there. Then I thought about adding a white cardstock scrap to here, but then it covers up the twine, and it was just a moment of indecision. And what I decided to do was just add the 50. I'm going to put a little bit of glue behind the 5 and the 0. And if necessary, I will put a little foam tape behind it if anything is off of the foliage and needs a little extra support. But I really, the 5-0 was most important in my mind. That's what I needed to have on here the very most. You know how that goes. You get your mind set on this project and you have an idea in your brain of how it's supposed to be. And the most important thing is the thing that you can't let go of. And that's how I felt about the 50, because 50 years is a long time. It is a long time to be married. And my parents are super awesome, wonderful examples of how to make 50 years go in a hard world. So here's a little zoom in. I'm trying to see if you can get any of that texture behind there. It is really hard to see. In real life, you can see it, but in photo, it's really hard to see. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I have a couple of other videos here I think you will like, as well as that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you did. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and have a really fabulous day.